comes to the supernatural or paranormal, one does not have to believe in it to have it come up out of the darkness and into the light, showing its ugly face. These are the times when it did just that. It was the fall of 1982. Randall, who was a sophomore in high school, had finished up his week of school and was very much so looking forward to the weekend. The family freezer was getting extremely low on fresh fish, which was one of Randall's favorite foods to eat. So he had decided earlier on in the week that he was going to take it upon himself and go and try to catch a few fish and store it back for the winter, when his chances to go fishing will be far and in between due to the cold weather. So, on Friday, after getting home from school, he went straight to the garage, gathered up his fishing poles and tackle box, and set them in the corner as he anxiously awaited his fishing trip the following Saturday morning. Randall loved to catch a variety of fish, such as bass, bluegill, and crappie, but his favorite fish to catch were catfish, and we knew that in order to give him the best chance of catching them, he needed to be on the fishing bank before daylight. So after a good night's sleep, Randall woke up around 4 a.m., got dressed, gathered his fishing gear, and proceeded to make his way towards Harrison's Pond, which happened to be a couple of miles away from Randall's home. The walk was calm and refreshing, with the temperature around 70 degrees. Upon arriving at the pond, Randall walked through the tall grass and made his way back to the second pond, which sat in between an old rundown coal shack. It was much larger than the first pond and presented Randall with a better chance of reeling in the big ones, which he knew from previous trips were definitely there. The air was cool as the fog sat on top of the pond, creating a sort of mystical appearance. Only the sounds of a few birds could be heard during the early morning hour, which by now was around 4:45. As Randall put the lever on his pole, which he grabbed out of the refrigerator on his way out of the door, all he could think about was how peaceful and relaxing it was on this fall morning. So he cast out his pole with the sound of a large splash hitting the water. Then he sat back on the fishing bucket that he had brought along to hold all the fish that he had planned on catching, took in a deep breath, and allowed the bait to rest on the bottom of the pond. It wouldn't take long before Randall saw a tug at his line, followed up quickly by a huge bend in his pole. He knew it was a catfish, and from the way it hit the pole, it was going to be a nice one. After a short fight, the fish surrendered, and Randall was able to reel in his first fish in the morning, which happened to be around a 10-pounder. This put a huge smile on Randall's face, so he hurriedly took the fish off the hook, baited it again, and cast it out into the foggy pond. About 5 minutes later, another tug came from the pole. Before he knew it, he was reeling in yet another catfish, this one seemingly larger than the previous one. Smiles of joy and happiness were written all over Randall's face, for he knew that this was going to be the morning that he racked up with all the big fish. But this would quickly take a change in a matter of minutes, going from good to bad. The area in which Randall was fishing in was very wooded, and it harvested a variety of animals, ranging from large deer, opossums, skunks, beavers, and etc. But on this particular morning, Randall didn't hear the sounds of any of these creatures walking through the woods. All he heard was the silence and an occasional sound of a bird or two. Although this seemed extremely off to Randall, the anticipation of catching a third fish trumped everything. So he baited and cast out his pole for the third time, unknowing to Randall, who will be the last cast of the morning. As the bait hit the water and he sat back on his bucket, in the distance he thought he heard a strange yelping sound of something coming from deep inside the woods. But then he heard it yet again, only this time it seemed to be getting a little closer to him. The strange sound echoed throughout the woods, making the hairs stand up on Randall's back. But he was determined to catch yet another fish, so he played it off as just being a wild animal crying out. Then in the distance, he began to hear what sounded like fallen tree branches being trampled on and broken by something large. And whatever it was heading in his direction. Then in the rising of the sun, he could make out something running fast heading towards him. But before he could utter out a word, a large deer dashed by him so fast, it was as if it had been chased by the devil himself. Afterwards, silence set up all around him, and he heard what sounded like a deep growling sound coming from within the woods. This spooked Randall so badly that he quickly struck out running, leaving behind his pole, his tackle box, and the fish that had caught that morning as he hightailed it out of the fishing area and back onto the main road that ran past the ponds. After catching his breath for a few seconds, he began to strike out running again, not stopping this time until he had safely made it home. To this very day, Randall has no idea what it was that made that yelping sound as it stomped through the woods, nearly scaring a deer to death. All we knew is that it was very large, and from the sounds it made, it wasn't human. Although he left behind his tackle box, his pole, and his fish that morning, he vowed never to go fishing in that area again, at least while it was dark. Hopefully you've enjoyed this story. If so, hit that like button and share my content. I'm Sir Creepsta, and like always, stay terrified.